Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you guys here. So I picked up some things from the art store and I thought I would go through them with you here because you're always asking me about new art supplies. One of the things that I found that was like such a good deal was this little Montmartre palette knife set, and I was curious if it was a better weight than the ones I got on Amazon or not, because I keep breaking them. I got this set on Amazon and I've broken the little things off constantly, but they were really like a nice, they kind of bend, but not too much. So I was curious if this was actually they're thinner, which is kind of nice because if they bend a little bit more, then I have a feeling like it's like one of the reasons why the plastic card works so well on some of these little pieces of art is because it bends, right? So when you're trying to do these type of things, and I'm using like plastic or wood, this can really score the paper because it's really strong. So I was curious if maybe this company made them just a bit thinner. And you know what? They are a bit thinner, which is kind of good because it will allow me to mold the paper a little bit better. So I'm going to try these in upcoming videos for sure. And we'll see how they go. They look pretty good though. It's always good to have these. I break them, seriously, I break them easily. So that is the Montmartre. Oh, yeah, I made so many of these really cool little samples. And you know what happened is I literally could not ship them because they just won't really officially dry. And it was summer and I'm like, I can't ship them to my people because they never really dry. Oh well, lesson learned. I also got some of my favorite pens and I love these pens. These are, well, a Sharpie is what I actually use to label my pans. So like when you have these pans, I label them, but the only thing that really works to keep them on the plastic is a Sharpie. So that's the only thing I use this permanent Sharpie for. You could sign art with it, I guess, but I don't know. I prefer these, but the Sharpie's good for just writing on the pans. But in any case, I use these black liners. I love them. They're so great. So I ordered some from Jackson's, and I've gotten some from our local art stores too. But when I went to the art store, I saw a whole bunch of them. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get some more because I constantly use these. So this is the black liner brush S, which is pretty cool. It's almost like a felt tip pen, you know? So it really does a really good job when you just want to sketch, something. It's just a great pen. It's got a great weight and it dries really fast. I like these because they're permanent, water-based indelible ink made in Germany, but they really, really do not wash away with the watercolor. And this is the 0.4. So you can see the line weight. Just going to do some really crazy, loose, fun flowers. This is the brush S. I like the way that writes, like you can see how it writes, brush S. This is the 0.3. So slightly more detailed than the 0.4. It's kind of more scratchy lines. You can see, so it's more scratchy than the other ones. Then this is the round. So the round's more like, kind of like a marker as well. So that's good for kind of doing heavier details and adding just a little more, you know, depth to your drawings. Like what I would use the round for would be, I'll show you. So in my sketchbooks, I do these drawings all the time. And for these thicker lines, I would use that. That'd be perfect for it. And like to fill in areas, it'd be perfect for it too. You know, for instance, when I did this for beam paints, some of the areas needed to be more fill. So rather than sit there forever, you just want to take a brush S or the round, and literally you can fill in so easily, and you can create more. It's not bad either. Like you can press and do thicker lines, or you can do thinner lines. So you can see those right there. So that's what I would use this for, is just for filling in and creating like darker lines. And I got 2 brush S's because I like the brush S's and I always use them so much. There we go. Okay. So brush S, the round. The difference between the brush S and the round, let's see. So the brush S on the side can make a thicker line and a thinner line, and it's a little softer hand, you know, so when you're using it, it's a little softer, where the round is more like a marker. But the brush S, it's kind of more like a, and I think that's going to be your big question, because I think a lot of us are really familiar with the fine tips, but when you get to the round against the brush S, they're different. So see, the round and the brush S is more like an actual, it's not like a brush, but it kind of works like on the side, it's different, right? Then the top is much, much thinner. And the round is just a round, it's like a round point. So on the side, it's kind of more scratchy, like you can do like dry brush kind of strokes, like strokes like this. I'll show you. Well, you can't really do that. So here's the round on the side, and there's the brush S on the side. So, but that's why you need the different ones. But they're around like $3, maybe $2-3 a piece, and they're so worth it. I love them. So I've never tried this one, white charcoal pencils, and I love white pencils. I have a lot of like Inktense and watercolor pencils that are white, and those are great for like added moments on top of things. And I'll show you what. So like if you're doing a watercolor and say, okay, so say you have something like this and you want to add a little bit of white detailing to it, you know, that's what these are really, really good for, because it's almost like just a different texture, you know, but you can like sharpen these. But they're also, I thought was cool, they're charcoal. They're actual charcoal. So you have that like blending ability, you know what I mean? But I think they're really good. It's different than gouache or anything like that. It's just to add a little bit of like a detail. See how that is? So you get rid of the flatness of the watercolor. So if you didn't leave enough white space in your drawings, I'm looking for something maybe that I need it with, and you wanted to just kind of shade in, so let me get you closer. Shade in your drawing with just a little bit more white, but you don't want it to be like a stark white. See how that does? It's great. You can just add little bits, and literally it's a great way to go through like a watercolor and just add a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm going to use these. These are great. As far as like the quality is good. It's not bad. These are really inexpensive. They're just by Montmartre. So if you do want to try them, I'm sure they're on Amazon. There are a lot of fancier labels for sure, and probably with more oil or softer, but these for charcoal pencils, they're fine. You know, Derwent actually is my preferred company for pencils. I really like their Inktense and their watercolor pencils, and they have charcoals and things like that too. And then there's also this company from Germany that makes a lot of charcoal, Weber Pastel. That's a really good company, and they make a lot of different charcoals and things and pencils. And this company, which is from Czech, so Utrecht Drawing, those are really good. I like those, but probably, I mean, there's so many out there, you know, it's not hard to find them, that's for sure. Okay, let's back out. There we go. Okay, so now for the goodies. Okay, so for paper, I picked up this, and believe it or not, I have never used this paper. I don't know why. I've only used like a very large piece of paper, but as far as like the purple, I don't ever remember buying this particular paper. And people keep asking me, do I use it? So I thought I would pick it up because I saw it at the art store today. Now this block was $19 Canadian. So I don't know what it is where you are, but it's a 7 by 10, 140 pound watercolor paper, 100% cotton in the Grand Fiend cold press, which is like the fine grain. So there's like a rough and then there's like more fine. It felt really, really good in the store. I thought, well, you know, because I actually looked through all of the papers that I hadn't used in the store, and this was the only one I considered trying because I'm an Arches person, right? So the reason why I liked it is it felt similar to Arches. It's got like a crispness to it, and Arches has a very crispy kind of feel. Like, here's my Hahnemühle, and here's the Arches. So let's just put these over here real quick. Make some room. And as far as Arches goes, I had to make these, by the way. I make these. I can't buy them because they don't sell Arches sketchbooks. So Arches is very crisp, and you can literally beat it up, right? So like I just recently recorded a tutorial doing a landscape, and for the landscape class that I have coming out, and it's literally like I beat the living daylights out of this paper and just scraped it and scratched it and removed paint and put paint back on, and it was fine. It handled it so well. But then I did another one on Paul Rubens, which was sent to me by the company to try out in the tutorials, and it's a really great paper, and if you get a good deal on it, it's a great 100% cotton paper. But I'll tell you, the way it's made, it doesn't compare to Arches because it's not the same at all. It is 100% cotton. It does have a really nice grain, but it still does warp a little bit. It's not as crisp, and the sizing is much different. It just kind of like sucks some of the water into the paper. So it does warp a little bit more than average, but as far as like, will colors shine up really nicely on it? Yes, colors do great on it. It does flatten out after it's done, so you can see it went right back to normal size. So it performs well. I can't say anything bad about the paper. It's really great, but it's not like Arches, right? Arches is something that you use when you get to a level where you just really love great paper and you want to sell your work. I use it for my sketchbooks because I just love to work on it. Hahnemühle, I've been really impressed with too. I really love this. If I were going to compare this, I would say that this is the closest to Hahnemühle. So this is a Hahnemühle watercolor paper. This is a mold made, but it's not 100% cotton paper. It's a cold press, and it's a very good paper. I recommend it like crazy if you're not going to use 100% cotton and you want something different, and you can get this at a good price. But these feel exactly the same. It's amazing, but this is supposed to be 100% cotton. So it'll be really interesting today to see how this performs under watercolor and pastel. So this is Artistico Extra White 100% Cotton by Fabriano, and it's 140 pounds. You get 20 sheets, 7 by 10, and this is a block. So for those of you who haven't used a block, typically on a block, there is a little area that is open, and on this is interesting, they do it on this side, so it's gummed from here all the way around. That's so weird. I've never seen that done like that before. But then this whole corner is open. Normally on the blocks it's just like this tiny little space up here, but I guess this would be easier to lift. You know, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. It's fine. Okay, so let's get to the fun stuff now. All right, so here are the Sennelier oil pastels. I have been really wanting to get into these for some time because I've done a lot of different things with other pastels, and believe it or not, I haven't used the Sennelier pastels before, not the oil pastels. So I saw them at the store and I thought, let's try these out for you guys so you can see how nicely they work with watercolor. This is a test pack, and you know how I love these test packs. If you've seen my watercolor videos, then you've seen my Sennelier videos on the test packs, and I highly recommend that you get those to start with. It's a great way to get into watercolor. And there really is nothing like that, right? There's a little ding on my, it doesn't matter, because you can keep these boxes and you can use them to store your watercolors in. You can put pans in them. I actually was just now looking for the Sennelier box that I did before. Oh, here it is. Okay, here's what I did. So with my last Sennelier box, this was with a the sample kit. So the test pack comes with just your basics like Chinese orange, lemon, bright red, ultra deep, and Payne's gray. And then I mixed, I added phthalo blue, I added Prussian, and I added turquoise green. I mixed all the other colors in here from those tubes, and I still have more left in the tubes. And then I put them in my own pans, and I added little rails of magnets. So this is what you can do with your tins, which I love. I think it's like so much fun. The tins are adorable. They're so cute. So I got the tin. This was only $10 for this, which was a great deal because individually these oil pastels were $5 a piece. So 2 equals this whole tin, and I get the tin. So if I need to, I don't know, if I need to like store the oil pastels in one place, or I want to take them with me, the tin's great for that. I highly recommend you get a tin. They're so cute and they're so easy. Plus you can like cut this. This comes out actually. It's just foam. So you can cut it. I'm getting oil pastel all over me. That's going to be fun. Oh yeah. I'm going to get this all over me. That's crazy. Okay, so these look amazing. I'm just going to go ahead and open all of the boxes because otherwise we will not get through this video anytime soon. So the object here is not necessarily to swatch every color, unless you guys want to see me swatch every color, but it's to look at the quality and give you a feel for what these kits are like. Try to let you experience them through my experience, which I think is always helpful when I'm trying to choose on something, you know? So I really do like the colors in the little test pack. The little test pack has a really nice range. actually. It's very easy. So there's a white, which is really helpful in oil pastels because you want that soft white, you know, to be able to pastel out something and make it lighter. There's a yellow, a jaune yellow. If you're a Sennelier fan, you know what that color is. It's a great, like, middle range yellow. Means not too cool, not too warm. Then there's a rouge red, permanent intense red. I can't wait to see what that one's like. It looks amazing. So this makes really bright oranges. Ultramarine blue is our standard blue, which is always great to have. Never go wrong. And then there's like a convenience green. So green medium. And that's really neat to have because it's not like watercolor where you can easily blend a green, right? And black noir is always helpful to have because typically when you're working with oil pastels and watercolors together, you don't usually use a black in watercolor unless you're mixing a granulating black like PBK 11 into a watercolor to get it to granulate. So I think this is a great deal. At $10, this is a terrific way to start playing with pastels, you know. And then I found this one, which I think is like the next level. I know that I'm going to like pastels because I've used them before. So I went ahead and got this 24 color set, which has, of course, some of these and a whole lot more. And, you know, I realized when I got these back, I should have gotten the turpentine because it's an additive that will help you like paint with the pastels, which is pretty neat to have. So I will eventually get that and I'll do it on another project for you guys to see. So it comes with this great brochure. For Christmas, this would be so neat to get the big set, you know, if I really like these and want to use them a lot. I didn't know they had oil pastel pads. They didn't have those there when I was there. But there is a huge color range. I think a long time ago, originally Sennelier allowed Van Gogh to pick his colors. He picked a range of 50. And I don't know if this is 120 colors that they now have, but the original range of 50 is available in one of these sets. And I had seen it advertised, but I think it's this one, 50 pastels. Universals, 120 pastels, universals. I don't know. A 50 sorted. I think the 50 is in this box, and I think it's originally the 50 that Van Gogh used to use and picked out from the company when they started. Guys, don't start. My huskies are restless, so don't mind them. Sometimes they sound ferocious. I'm just warning you. Here she goes. So this is beautiful. So what colors are the same? You know, I did look at it in the store and I felt like most of the colors were not the same. So of course the white, which is good to have more than one white for mixing and blending. The yellow is different. So where you get the jaune yellow, the 74 in the little set, you don't get that. You get a different yellow, which is number 19 in this 24 set. So I immediately got a different yellow, which is kind of fun because I'll be able to play with the different yellows. I'm not really sure what it is. They didn't list it. And then for the red, it's the same red, but then they give you additional reds. So you get this one that is the same, which is 220, but then you're also getting an orange. You're getting this like deeper red and this like kind of pinky red, and then more like of a brown red, almost like Venetian red. I wonder if they have names on these. I see numbers, but so far I don't know where the names are. It'd be nice if they put names on them, because if they stamp them with numbers, we might have to look them up. I don't know. As far as the blue, there is of course, the ultramarine blue should be in this pack. And it's funny because it is not in this pack. There's a different blue. So the ultramarine is in this one, which is number 5. But in here, you have a range of different blues. You get like this lavender color blue. There's like more of a cobalt blue. This would be the closest, I think, to ultramarine blue, right? But it's not the same one. This is 237. Interesting, huh? They didn't put that in there. And then you get this like really bright shade of blue, and then some turquoises, a light turquoise, and then your greens. I love the shades of this one. This is why I got it. There are so many blues and greens. It's really cool. Yellows. There's a really, really warm yellow that kind of to me looks like quinacridone gold a little bit. It's really pretty. Sennelier is made in France, for those who don't know. And then you have some of the earthy tones for when you're doing like smoky kind of forests. And, you know, if you want to do, just depending on what you want to do with it. And there's some, like a nice warm yellow, a more cool yellow. So this pretty much, I would say you can make every color from this. You really don't need much more than the 24 pack. It would just be a convenience thing. If you really love to use these, then by all means, make it a Christmas gift, save up for it, and get the big packs. But as far as what you need, you can get by with this to try. I highly recommend this set, the 24. I think this is the coolest set because it literally gives you everything and so much more. But again, you get some colors in here that are not in here. And then for fun, I got the iridescent one because iridescents are really cool in pastels to use. They're also cool in watercolor too, but I don't really use a lot of iridescents in watercolors. So in here, I get this full range of iridescents, and you've got the white one, the blue, like this beautiful kind of like a rose copper, and then the traditional copper, the golds. Really, really pretty. Actually, there's several of these copper colors, which is neat. Where's the... I want the, we need the booklet that has the colors in them. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? Here we go. Does this have the foils listed? It does. Okay, so there's an aluminum. Interesting. Set 111. That's the aluminum. Neat. That's cool. There's a pale gold, which is this one. No, this one. And then 113 is the rich pale gold. Then there is a rich gold, but I don't think that's in here. 134 is the red gold. 135. It's pretty. They're really, really pretty. These are so pretty. All right. Transparent blue is this one. And then this one, iridescent white. Then here is the red copper. These are so nice. I love the iridescents. They're so pretty. All right. We're going to do something with these really quick. And I'll keep this out. Okay. Yeah, let's just do something. What am I going to do? So if I did watercolor right now with this, maybe I'll do a separate. No, I can do it. Hang on. I know how to do it. So I'm going to really quick paint a little bit of watercolor on my page. So I'm just going to take some of my blue here. Re-wets nicely. And just going to give it just some body and a little shape. Okay, so we'll just leave that there. Let it dry while I'm doing this other thing. All right, so now let's take a beautiful, I want to take this turquoise. You know, I had to grab the turquoises right off the bat. I want to see what these are like. So this is number 219 and number 214. So 219 would really help if they had 219? So 219 is celestial blue, and 214 is not even listed right next to it. Thank you for that. God, what is the order here? This is so strange. It's not in number order. They must have added colors like much later. Okay, I can't even find the color. How strange. Okay, maybe it's just a color that's not available. I don't know. I don't know why it's not in there. Maybe I'm just missing it. Okay, so obviously you can rip these wrappers if you wanted to break these and use them, you know, in different ways. Of course, with pastels, there's so many different ways to use them. Just so that I can keep the wrappers intact right now and not get crazy, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to lay down color. So that's this beautiful turquoise. And here is like this kind of beautiful blue turquoise. It's kind of like a, I don't even know how I would categorize this. It's so pretty though. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the gold. I think this one, because it's kind of bright. And I'm just going to add a little bit there. And then I'm going to take this red copper. And they're so beautiful and soft, so easy to paint with, or like to draw with. It's amazing. Seriously, right? Look at that. Look at how beautiful these colors are. They're so, so nice. So hang on, I'm not done. So the convenience colors, of course, that are in here make it so easy. So what are we going to choose for the stems? Let's choose like a really deep green just so that we can see what that's like. And then I'm going to go back with some of the copper. Beautiful. Then we're going to go and I think let's blend first a little bit. So you could blend with your finger, which I tend to like to do because I like to get hands-on with these things. So look at how beautiful we can shape the rest of our flower out. Tell me you're not like falling in love with these already, right? I know I am. I love them. They're so pretty. Now, oil pastels do not dry on your paper. You have to use a fixative with them. But I'm already so in love with them. It just, how gorgeous. This is so, so nice. The idea behind them is just to keep layering, you know? So I'm just going to put in some of this gold here. Just kind of accenting out my beautiful flower with some of the gold, and not going to rub that in as much because I really like this smudge. So let me show you how pretty this is. Can you see how beautiful it smudges? It's so lovely. Really is so lovely. It's soft and just so pretty. So I'm just going to create a little bit more in the back there of the gold. And I'm going to play with just a little bit of color, and then we'll smudge it in for it to be. So what I'm doing is I'm smudging so that it doesn't look just like, you know, so it looks a little bit more interesting. And because it's a rough paper, it kind of smudges really cool on this paper. It's a great paper for it. I love it. It's so pretty. So of course you can't use water on it, but once your watercolor is dry, this is almost dry, we can go in and add pastel to your watercolor to make it have more depth and dimension. Now, do you want to add pastel or add watercolor to your pastel drawing? You can, but I'm going to show you what it's like in reverse. So when I add the watercolor, the oil is going to resist it. However, I really love the effect of seeing the watercolor resist, the oil resist the watercolor. And I feel like I can do things both ways. I feel like I can get really neat effects by creating the flowers or, some of my painting first using the oil pastels, and then I can go back in, and where there are little lines and spaces, that's where the watercolor will sit. The rest of it will just kind of float on top and become, it's resisted. So I feel like I can kind of like dry brush some beautiful watercolors over this. Now, if this is something you want to learn to do, I'm actually teaching this in my class. So I have a watercolor florals for beginners class. And this is one of the lessons that you're going to learn is how to use these different techniques, all kinds of different techniques to do watercolor florals. It's an ongoing class. And by ongoing, I mean that I constantly record new videos. And as I record new videos, I add them to the class. So you only pay one time and you're going to get that forever floral class. Now look at how cool that is. Do you see how that went? So how doesn't that make, I feel like it makes watercolor easier. You know what I mean? So this is one way of doing it. You can literally put down some color and then take your watercolor and create these nice loose effects. Isn't that great? How pretty is that? I think that's just so beautiful. I love it. So that's one way that you can do it. Now the other way is this way, where we've already put some watercolor down. And now we're going to take our pastels and we're just going to color over, like in some of the line work, and cover some of the watercolor, but not all of it. Now remember, you can keep layering as long as you don't cover everything, because once you cover everything, what happens is the oil pastel is going to resist the watercolor. So if you want watercolor in the underneath folds, right, the underneath areas, then put that in first and lay down your color and then add the pastel. If you want the pastel first and you want the dry brush effect of the watercolor, then lay down the other first. So look at how cool this is. So now I can take this. Now you don't have to use your finger because your finger has some oils on it. You can also use rubbing sticks. You can use a cotton ball. You can use Q-tips. You can use some the turpentine, to loosen this up, or just some other oil. Like maybe, I don't even know if you could use coconut oil. I'm not really sure. I wouldn't quote me on that one, but why not? Why not try? If there's a fixative, I haven't played with a fixative yet. I do have my Sennelier fixative for watercolor, so I'm going to check and see if it's the same one. I'm thinking that it probably is the same one. So I'm just kind of highlighting and outlining here, but see how nice it gives me the ability to shade and shadow. And because I have this nifty multicolor set, I'm actually able to use all the convenience colors, and I don't have to create my own colors, right? I don't have to worry about only having those few. That's why I said for beginners, if you want to get used, if you want to play with the water or the oil pastels, then the 24 set I feel like is the best way to go because you have everything that you would need. Okay, so here is what that looks like. So I did a little heavier here so you could see. And I'll bet that if you wanted more coverage, you could either use a less grainy paper, so something with a little less tooth, or you can just use more layers and press harder, you know, and really kind of imprint it in, or add a little bit of oil to liquefy the pastels. This is really fun to do though. Really, really fun. So let me take a look at this, this blue, this beautiful blue. So, so pretty. Okay, so it's a little bit light, but I love it. What a gorgeous foil. That's so pretty. Just adds that little bit of shine. Can you see the shine? Yeah, it adds that little bit of shine. And then let's do the center. Let's start building out the center with some more of these colors. So I'm just kind of dabbing it in. And then we'll use a little bit of a darker one just so that we get a little more color and vibrancy. And then I always like to kind of bring it through, you know, like I did with this other one. I kind of feel like in mine, this is just me, I don't like to just have it in one place. I like to have the eye carry through, you know, like let the gold carry the eye around the drawing a little bit. See how pretty that is? I feel like if I just had it in this center, it's not as effective as if I have it in other places. And so then this one, I wonder if I use this side. Let's see. There's that. I've got some blue. Already got it all over me, but it is so much fun. Seriously. Let's get a little bit of our green. I think I'm going to use a softer green here. Softer, like deeper green. On the bottom. So I'm just kind of working some in here. And then I recommend standing back and really taking a look at what you've got. And then adding slowly. Adding your layers slowly. You know, because you have this ability with this to be able to do it. So see how soft that is? So I feel like if you use the watercolor first, you've now softened your edge. You know what I mean? And if you wanted to go back in here, you would need the turpentine or the oil to activate the oil and get this to move around. As far as like what else I can use, I can't even think of anything I have here right now that I could use to activate this. But like obviously water and oil don't mix, right? So it's literally, there's only so much I can do as far as getting the color back in underneath here. It really just, you just kind of have to press it into the areas where, you know, it's not, but it can be done. And if you like to do it this way, then great, you can do it this way, you know? This leaves a lot of white space in your drawing. But it's interesting, the different ways, the different things that you can do or not do with this. So let's now go here, and I'm going to take a little bit of my green. And I'm just going to see, you see how it resists it? How much of it lands on there, and then take a rag and I'm just going to dry it off and see what I'm left with. So literally, that's how resistant it is. I mean, it really will not. But I think it's really interesting looking, and a great way to get texture into your watercolor. I mean, this is so addicting. I literally could see me doing almost every painting this way because it's really interesting. It's just different, It allows me to get a completely different take. Completely different take. Adding some of this. And the layers are just so interesting. I love the fact that you don't really know how the watercolor is going to go down because of the oil. I actually really love it. I love the unpredictable behavior of it and the fact that it's uneven. Like literally I'm going in here and adding some depth of color from Sennelier, and I just don't really know if it's going to hit, if it's not going to hit, and I love that because it's hard enough to get a painterly effect, right? It's really hard to get a beautiful kind of imperfect, loose look in watercolor because watercolor, it wants to blend together, and sometimes you can't always get the layers just right. But to me, this has such a neat look to it. See what I've done? It just really, really is beautiful. And look at on the leaves how you can add different colors, and literally it will not cover the gold, like the gold's still there. It just kind of sits underneath, and then if I just want to dab it up, I can literally dab it up and then add a little more color just in some areas. I love that. I think that that's so much fun to do, and I think that it makes working with a few different things in your watercolor so much more fun. I also know that if I wanted to paint a background in, I could do it because it's really not going to take away from the flower. The flower is going to remain there, Just kind of doing in some loose dry brushing just to represent. So like a little bit of a grounding effect onto the bottom. This paper actually handles really well. It's a beautiful paper. I mean, I can buy arches for 12 sheets for the $20, and I got this one for $20, and it was how many sheets? It's a lot more, but it's not as big. These are 7 by 10, so I got 20 of them. On my arches, for $20, you get 12 9 by 12s. So significantly larger. But I still feel like this is a really good deal. Okay, so which one do you like better so far? Do we like the one where we kind of paint the watercolor first? It's a little softer look, and then you layer the pastels over. That's probably the more preferred. Or do you like the one where you put the pastel on first and then you layer the watercolor over? They're both different effects, much different process, but and different results, of course. You kind of have more flexibility. I feel like if you start with the watercolor first, because then you know what your watercolor looks like and then you use the pastels to enhance it. Here, it's a little bit of a sharper look. You don't really have as much control with where you can put the watercolor down and what you can do with it. So, you know, of course, that's a lot different effect, but both are really beautiful. It's hard to even decide, you know, what I want to do. Now, if I want to do a background, this is going to be really easy because literally where the pastel is, it's just going to resist the watercolor. So, I mean, why not? Let's just, for the heck of it, put in a very, very light background. Trying to think of what color I want to put in that I have here. Let's see. I think just add a lot of water to this blue. Yep, that's pretty. So I'm just going to tap in a very, very light wash into my background just to show you how easy it is, because it's going to resist. It's going to keep, it's only going to leave the watercolor where the oil pastel is not. So you literally don't have to start with your backgrounds when you're mixing the oil pastels in, because see, it's not even, it's only going over the area that's watercolor only. But anything where I have smeared the oil pastels, it's resisting that too. So enough of the tooth was covered where it's resisting it. It's really interesting because you can get this really neat painterly effect after you've already put your main subjects in, and you're not going to harm your painting. So that's just a little bit of a dry brushing. And this was a Escoda Prado size 12 by David Taylor. This is a beautiful brush. It's one of my favorites because it's got a nice little tip. It's not a real sharp tip, but it's great. Isn't that pretty? So I can add some layers to the watercolor background. And now I have this really neat watercolor painting. I personally love the softness of starting with the watercolor first. I think that's really neat. You know, I'm going to take a little bit of the darker blue. And I'm just going to see if I can even drop in some of the darker blue. Let's see what happens. Just because I feel like this looks just a little, like this one looks so nicely modeled and this one just doesn't. So one of my go-to effects is to take a deeper color and then create a little bit of a roll. Now, because this is a granulated color, I might actually have to go back over the oil pastel. I'm not sure. Let's see. Nope, it's separated. So literally it's just breaking up the watercolor and kind of pushing it aside. See what's happening? So where I went over it, it just kind of beads up and breaks it off. It's pretty neat, right? So, oh, it's hard to do this on camera. There. See what I mean? So it just resists it. So it will only color what doesn't have oil pastel on it, and then it'll come right off. But it does kind of like, because it's covering some of the white in the background, it does kill some of the brightness of the pastel, but I think it adds to, like, it gives you that more soft effect that we have with the other one. And this green, because it doesn't have the white in the background, it kind of like is more solid where I smeared it. And that's why it kind of looks not as, it looks different than here. So if I go back and I take like a bright gold, like I did over here, and I come back in and just kind of brighten up some of those areas with some bright gold, it will take some of the flatness away from that color being, you know, so solid. because I personally like these areas where a lot of the paper was. So that to me, that just tells me that I would not like to use oil pastels on a flat sheet of paper. I prefer it to be textured because I really do like the white shining through. I think it brightens the pastel and makes it look like just kind of pop a little bit more, you know? You know what I'm saying? This is really pretty. This has been a really fun experience with these. It really has. It's so I can just still even go right over the area. So if you want to add layers even after you've put the watercolor on the background, no problem. All right, so that's my fun little moment with my oil pastels, my first experience. Like I said, I didn't sample all of these colors because if you're familiar with watercolors or familiar with, you know, your colors, you probably already know what these are. They are truly beautiful though. And gosh, they sure do like just give me so many interesting ideas, you know, moving forward as far as being able to play with my oil pastels and play with my artwork. So if I were going to compare the yellows, which is probably a question you have, to some of the yellows of watercolors, this yellow from the small pack is kind of like a medium yellow. It's very warm. It says it's yellow lake is the color. It's like a sunflower yellow. And then from this other set, this yellow that is like a lemon yellow is very much like the Hansa or the lemon yellow or like a cad yellow. And then this yellow here, I don't know what it says it is. No. Okay, let's look. Number. Where is the number on this? Oh, it's a yellow deep. So yellow deep. Yeah, it's very much a yellow deep for sure. Kind of in the Indian yellow family, but a little bit deeper than that. So it's very, I would say these are really similar to the colors in Sennelier's watercolor line, you know, because that is like a medium yellow for sure. What other color? We didn't test this one out. So 237 is not ultramarine blue, right? It is, oh, French ultramarine. Interesting. Okay, so it looks just like the French Ultra by Sennelier or by Schminke. And then in comparison to the blue here, so the one in the kit that's the ultramarine blue is deeper and this is brighter. So very much like the Ultra Intense that you see. It's French Ultra, but it's more like an Ultra Intense. French Ultra, yes, but a little bit more dark from the smaller kit. So if you like the darker ultramarine, then you want to get the smaller kit. The intense one is like the brighter blue. So that's in this set here, the 27. As far as some of the reds, let's look at the reds next to Pyro. So this one is the Lake Light, Cadmium Lake Light. That is a really, really pretty red, Cadmium Lake Light. So it's kind of a little bit chalkier than some of the other reds. This one is this is from the 27 set. This is the Ruby Red. Beautiful red. And then the red that comes in both the kits, which is the brighter red. And this is Permanent Intense. Permanent Intense, I think. Yeah, Permanent Intense Rouge. Yeah, and that's like equal to Sennelier's bright red. Beautiful. So 3 beautiful reds, as well as like almost a Venetian red. This is like a brownie red. It says it's $2.39, so this is red brown. So to me, that's a lot like Venetian red. Beautiful colors and a really bright, like a bright poppy orange. That's so pretty. They're all beautiful, really beautiful. I would go with this set. I think this is a great set. It's a great way to start. This didn't cost that much. You know, they're really well priced. And of course, this set is beautiful. So you could really just get those two rather than a huge set if you didn't want to spend. I think on Jackson's it's like under $200 though to get a big set of these, which I will, now that I have played with them, I can't really imagine me liking any of the pastels better than this. So probably it's something that I'm going to wish for Christmas for sure. All right. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If you want to get yourself a set, if you use my affiliate link in the description box, then I would really appreciate it because that's how I get all of these new sets so that I can test them out and show you what's going on. And then I also, with whatever's remaining, use it for our giveaways on our group page on Facebook. Have a great one, you guys, and thanks for hanging out with me. This was so fun. What a great experience that was. I really enjoyed it, and I would totally use these again. In fact, these are now my favorite oil pastels for sure.